Hello, welcome to Joy Educators Current Affairs Everyday, dated 22nd June 2021. So, the first article that we're going to discuss here is Indira Gandhi Canal. It is in page number 4 of the Hindu newspaper. And here we can see CAD, which means Command Area Development. So, let us see. So, the main reason for the context here is it is recently a small section of Indira Gandhi Canal was being restored. So that's the reason it's in the news. And we can see that there is the it is the from the origin is in Punjab, Harik barrage, and it's from Harik. It's almost 204 kilometers long, and it enters into Rajasthan. The main canal is almost 445 kilometers long. And let us see the objectives of this canal. So the main objectives here is to provide the irrigation facilities in desert areas to meet increasing demand of agricultural products. So basically the main agenda for any irrigation process is first the agricultural products, right? So also to provide water for drinking and industrial users. So basically when we see this Indira Gandhi Canal, it was being a great blessing for Rajasthan, Punjab and Haryana. So even in the it's a drought proofing of the area and also helpful for the improving of living conditions. So the living conditions can be improved by with the measures of drought proofing and also to meet the needs of drinking water, fodder, even for the cattle, right? For cattle and animals and everything else, and also to provide opportunities for employment and overall holistic development of the area. So this is the main objectives for the Indira Gandhi canal being restored. And coming to the benefits. So the main benefits that we're gonna see here is, okay, let us put it in this way. Let me zoom it a little bit. Okay, there we go. So the irrigation is being done in every year in this year. So in this area. So where earlier it was very difficult to arrange even for drinking water, but the irrigation is happening every year. So this is the first major benefit. And second thing is drinking water. So for many villages and towns and cities being blessed by this arid regions. And coming to the second thing, it's about power generation. Okay, so water for power generation is being supplied to various power projects. It will be in the news and also in the current affairs. So try to understand this. Swarthgar, Barisin, Barsinger and Guda. Okay, so all this Girgal and all this and various industries also, and also elimination of drought conditions. So basically, India had been the worst prone for the drought conditions. So it's also helpful for removal of the drought conditions, famines. Okay, and then remarkable improvement in socio-economical conditions. So this is the main agenda here, right? For the people, for their culture and holistic development. And finally, the raise in groundwater table. So it is the major thing for anyone to sustain. So next thing that we can see here is the Indira Gandhi Canal Command development. So it starts around here at this Harke barrage. Okay, so you can see that there are three rivers that the junction starts, and it goes in this way. Okay, so there will be many places which will be going ahead. So you can see that this region over here. Okay, so this will be underflow, and the one which is in blue color is also underflow but in stage. Let us see holistically. I already did it bit do it for you guys. So yeah, it starts from here and it goes like this. So it will be helpful for Deccan and also interlink rivers. Okay, IL means interlink rivers, and it goes in this way. Okay, you can see it, and yeah. So the second topic for today's discussion is BT cotton benefits shows some benefits. So what is a BT cotton? So what exactly? It is in the page 4 of the newspaper. You can just check it out. And the main theme here is biotechnology. Okay, so let us see without much delay. So the first thing is research was funded by the Agricultural Extension Division of the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. So the benefits, what are the benefits here? Are first thing is the insecticide reduction. Okay, so by use of volume and applications, there is reduction in insecticide and also decline. Okay, decline in environmental and human health impact. Okay, so there is the much impact of the human and environment also decreasing, and also reduction in the expenses. So cost also getting decreases, and yes, we know that cost and yields past 13 years has been stable. The only expectation date was 2015. It could be also asked, and also at over the past 13 years, pesticide has also been gradually increased in hybrids and reduced in non-BT variants. So let us see what is this BT cotton. Okay, what exactly it is. So we had just seen the benefits, but what exactly and how exactly this works. The first thing about this thing is it genetically modifies. Okay, it's a GM cotton, which is called genetically modified cotton. And second thing is BT cotton has bacillus trigenesis that produces a toxin called crystal protein. Okay, so which kill the pest. So what happens is this crystal protein is that it produced by the bt gene, which is transferred to the gene of cotton plant using a vector called as carrier. Okay, so this technique is called as recombinant DNA technology. Okay, it's a really good technique. So by this technology, there is so much of things gonna happen. Okay, next thing. So third point of what it is exactly is that this pesticide now produced in each BT cell, plant cell, ought to protect the plant from bollworm. Okay, so this is a worm which really affects the living conditions. Okay, so what exactly is the next thing? So it also increases the yields by reducing the insecticide spraying on the cotton plant. So according to Agriculture Ministry, from 2005, adoption of BT cotton rose to almost 81% in 2007 and up to 93% in 2011. I don't know what is exactly the count in 2021. Okay, let's see. So the variants. The major variants that we could see here, it's all about one or two are allowed in India, but third variant has a three genes and is not allowed in India. So also known as HTBT cotton. Okay. Okay. Let us see the next thing that we're gonna see here. It's about recombinant DNA technology. When genes of two or more different species are combined, like we got cotton, right? Cotton plus BT cotton. When we add it, we call it as BT. See, okay. And the second thing is MS Swaminathan. MS Swaminathan Research Foundation has developed a GM, genetically modified rice using this salt water tolerant gene of mangrove plant to make a rice plant. See how interesting is this? By using salt water tolerant, they are using to make a rice plant which can be grown in salt water. So exactly right. Yeah. So this is also awesome. And also let us go with the next thing. Is about benefits of this genetically modified crops. So the main benefits is it develops through resistant crops and also water resistant crops. Okay, and nutrient and enhancement, food medicine, farming, and also herbicide tolerant. So basically it also helps in golden rice. Okay, so we take, and so why not genetically modified crops in India? So biosafety issue is mainly a basic issue in India. So why we are not using the genetically modified crops in India, and it may be carcinogenic. Okay, so India does not allow this edible genetically modified crops for sale and production. However, we import them. See, we are not doing it, but we are trying to bring from other countries. So, what are the issues? The major issues are harmful effects are yet to be researched. So there are some harmful effects, but yet we are using this. Yeah? So that's the reason they are not manufacturing it. So not tolerant to kill all kinds of pests. Okay. So it is being sold via a black marketing because it's so much of efficient, right? So this is also a major issue. And the corporate control over seed production, it is also a major issue, and not completely organic in production sense, also bio safety sense. Okay, so with this we're gonna see yeah, corporate seed production over seed production. Its an example is Monsanto. Okay, yeah. So these are the few examples that we're gonna see, and let us go to the next article. Is it's not an article, but like it is a small thing that we should, right? So 21st June is International Day of Yoga. So let us see what exactly we can know about yoga. See, this is very important. 20 International Day of Yoga. They could ask a question on this. Okay, so first thing is yoga is an ancient physical, mental, and spiritual practice that originated in India. So this is the basic thing, and we know this Patanjali, right? Yeah. So it's a draft resolution establishing the International Day of Yoga and was proposed by India and endorsed a record of 175 member states. See, even the UN has recognized it, right? So it is a very, very super, established and known thing. Fact. And the word yoga derives from Sanskrit, and it means yoga means join or to unite. Okay, it is symbolizing the union of body and consciousness. Okay, this thing. So what are the main objectives of this? The main objective of this the day 21st June is to raise the awareness worldwide of many benefits of the practicing yoga. And final thing that's away is recognizing its universal appeal on 11th December 2014. The United Nations proclaimed 21st June on 11th December 2014, 21st June by resolution 69 by 131. United Nations had made 21st June as the International Day of Yoga. So people who do yoga are called yogi and yogini. Okay, it doesn't matter. So this is the main thing. 21st June, just try to remember, and the main thing. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the next now. So this article, NHRC, it is in the it comes under polity and it is in the page number 9. You can just check it out in the newspaper, the Hindu, also in the in Express. Okay, so yeah, so coming to acting chairperson appointed for NHRC. So what is meant by NHRC? So we know that Justice um, Prafulla Chandra Pant, a former Supreme Court judge, has been appointed the acting chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission. Okay, so why it is much important? Because okay, let's do it like this. Okay, in National Human Rights Commission, it is mostly in the news, so they could ask who is the acting chairperson and all this. So let us see one by one. So the major highlights that we can see here is the NHRC is a statutory body established in 1993 under the production of HRA, which is Human Rights Act. Okay, PHI, Protection of Human Rights Act. Okay, 1993. The commission is a watchdog for the entire human rights. Okay, in the country. So that is it. The rights relating to life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individual guaranteed by the Constitution. Okay, four things: rights relating to one life, two equality, three dignity by the Constitution. Okay, so these are major things that we need to understand from this. Okay. Life, okay. Liberty, life, liberty, equality, and dignity. Life, liberty, equality, and dignity. And what is the appointment? Who is the appointment? So chairman and members are appointed by the president on the recommendation of six-member committee. Okay, so the PM, what is six-member committee here? PM, the speaker, home minister, deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha, leader of opposition in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Okay, one, two, three, four, five, and six. Okay. So what is the composition? So chairman plus four members is the composition for this NHRC. Okay, National Human Rights Commission. So the major thing that we can see here is the Protection of Human Rights Act had this few enhanced to provide a constitution of NHRC SHRC, which is State Human Rights Commission, and also the Human Rights Courts. Okay, so this comes under the PHRA, Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, and let us see one by one. Okay, so the main thing that here we can see is yeah, before going to appointment, let us see this composition. Okay, the composition is the state commission shall consist of a chairman, chairperson, who has been a chief justice or a judge of the high court. He could be either the chief justice of India or judge of Supreme Court or judge of a high court. Okay, so and the next thing is one member who is or has been a judge of the Supreme Court, and one member who is or has been the chief justice of high court, and three members out of which at least one shall be a woman. So there is a reservation over here. So to be appointed from among these persons having knowledge of practical experience. Okay, so the basic things that we're going to see here is the composition. Okay, so yeah, so ex officio members should be for SC, ST, BC, women, minorities, and all this people with disabilities. And let us see how the people will be removed. And before going to the removal, there is something about a chief executive officer. There should be the secretary who shall be the chief executive officer of the state commission and shall subject to control of the chairperson to as to exercise all administrative and financial powers of the state commission. So let us see about this major removal and this part. Okay, so yeah, so the chairperson and the members shall be appointed by the governor by warrant and these things, and how they will be removed and resigned. Okay, so yeah, let us see. So the resignation is by the chairperson of the member or the member of state commission, maybe by notice in writing under his hand addressed to the governor to resign his office. But how does the removal takes place? The chairperson and member of state commission shall only be removed from his office by order of the president. Okay, so the only the president can remove the chairman or any member from the office under the following circumstances. The first circumstance, if he is adjunct or insolvent, or if he engages during his term office in any paid employment outside the duties of the office. Okay, so it could be insolvent, paid employment, and also if he is unfit to continue in office, maybe it could be mind or body of something, any unfit infirmity. Okay, and if he is unsound mind, okay, and stand undeclared by the competent court, and also if he is convicted or sentenced to imprisonment for any offense. Okay, so because of any offense he could be removed. And what are the important functions over here? So to inquire into any violation of human rights, either suo motu or any petition presented to it or an order of the court. Okay, so also to visit jails and detention to review and to undertake to promote research of the human rights. Okay, so what is the team office is that before going ahead, the team office is a chairperson. Okay, so team and term is that the chairperson shall hold office for 3 years. Okay, and the members shall hold the office for the same exactly members for also 3 years, and no member shall hold office after he has attained the age of 70 years. Once he got the 70 years, he couldn't get into this team. Okay, yeah. So let us go to the next article, which will be showing us about this CDS to chair mate. So it is in the page number 8 of the Hindi newspaper. You can just check it out, and it comes under the security. Okay, CDS is a new chair thing that had been accounted. So coming to the CDS, the creation of the CDS to act as a single point military advisory to the Prime Minister on grounds of strategic issues was one of the indirect recommendations of the Kargil review. And also review committee on higher military reforms after the 1999 conflict. So in 2012, the Naresh Chandra Committee committed, it's also important, Naresh Chandra Committee has recommended the appointment of the permanent chairman COSC as a midway to allay apprehensions over the CDS. Okay, so currently the senior most of the three chiefs functions as the chairman of the COSC. So who is recommended for the formation of CDS is DB Kar. Okay, Shaktikar, DB Shaktikar. Okay, all right. Let us go into this main thing. So the Department of this Military Affairs, headed by the CDS, will deal with these many issues. Okay. So what else we can see? We can see it here. Okay. All right. So before going into any further, so the Chief of the Defense Staff. Okay, we know it, right? So let us little bit zoom it. Yeah. So it's recommended by Kargil Review as we seen earlier. So also head of the Department of the he is the head of the military affairs and also the permanent chairman of the Chiefs of Staff Committee and also the principal military advisor to Raksha Mantri. Raksha Mantri is defense minister on all tri-service matters. He's going to be even the advisor and not exercise any military command, but he's a member of the Defense Acquisition Council and also he's the military advisor to the Nuclear Command Authority. And coming to this Department of Military Affairs, he is promoting jointless in procurement, training, and staffing, and also facilitation of the restructuring of these military commands, and also finally the promoting uses of indigenous equipment by the services. So before going any further, let us go with this department, what it dealing with. Okay, so the main thing that's deal with is that the Department of Military Affairs deals with armed forces of the Union, and second thing, it is integrated headquarters HQ of the military of defense comprising army, navy, and air force and defense staff headquarters, and also the territorial army. And the fourth thing is works relating to the army, navy, air force works. And final thing is, as we seen before, procurement exclusive of the to services, except capital acquisitions are prevalent rules and procedures. Rules and procedures. Yeah. With this, we can go to the next about the concerns attached to this theater command. So let us see what are the concerns attached to this. The main concerns that is attached to is that so it may lead to dilution in the operational control of the respective service chief, and also it would be difficult to replicate every single service command. Okay, and also the air commander structure has not been adopted by major country in the recent past, and also India's military engagement in the past, such as during Kargil war, has not highlighted any form of major issues. So finally, final concern for this is integrated theater. Okay, so just to speak about these things, concerns on the creation of this chief of the defense staff may lead to dilution. Okay, may lead to dilution, and the final concern is integrated commands when adopted in developing countries has been greater ability of political influence. Okay, so political influence is a final thing. Okay, with this we completed our thing. Thank you. Bye.